I answered, nay, the lover's parting day is lover's worst disgrace. Then Sharrkan left her and walked down from the convent. They brought his steed, so he mounted and rode downstream to the drawbridge, which he crossed, and presently threaded the woodland paths, and passed into the open meadow. As soon as he was clear of the trees, he was aware of horsemen, which made him stand on the alert, and he bared his brand and rode cautiously. But as they drew near and exchanged curious looks, he recognized them, and behold, it was the Wazir Dandan and two of his emirs. When they saw him and knew him, they dismounted, and saluting him, asked the reason of his absence. Whereupon he told them all that had passed between him and Princess Abrizah from first to last. The Wazir returned thanks to Almighty Allah for his safety, and said, "Let us at once leave these lands, for the envoys who came with us are gone to inform the king of our approach, and haply he will hasten to fall on us and take us prisoners." So Sharrkan cried to his men to saddle and mount, which they did, and setting out at once, they stinted not, faring till they reached the soul of the valley wherein the host lay. The ambassadors, meanwhile, had reported Sharrkan's approach to their king, who forthright equipped a host to lay hold of him and those with him. But Sharrkan, escorted by the Wazir Dandan and the two emirs, had no sooner sighted the army that he raised the cry, "March! March!" They took horse on the instant, and fared through the first day and second and third day, nor did they cease faring for 5 days, at the end of which time they alighted in a well-wooded valley, where they rested a while. Then they again set out, and stayed not riding for 25 days, which placed them on the frontiers of their own country. Here, deeming themselves safe, they halted to rest. And the country people came out to them with guest gifts for the men, and provender and forage for their beasts. They tarried there 2 days, after which, as all would be making for their homes, Sharrkan put the Wazir Dandan in command, bidding him lead the host back to Baghdad. But he himself remained behind with 100 riders, till the rest of the army had made 1 day's march. Then he called, "To horse!" and mounted with his 100 men. They rode on 2 parasangs space, till they arrived at a gorge between 2 mountains, and lo! there arose before them a dark cloud of sand and dust. So they checked their steeds a while, till the dust opened and lifted, discovering beneath it 100 cavaliers, lion-faced and in mail coat cased. As soon as they drew within earshot of Sharrkan and his Maini, they cried out to them, saying, "By the virtue of John and Mary, we have won to our wish. We have been following you by forced marches, night and day, till we forewent you to this place. So dismount and lay down your arms, and yield yourselves, that we may grant you your lives." When Sharrkan heard this, his eyes stood out from his head, and his cheek flushed red, and he said, "How is it, O Nazarene dogs, ye dare enter our country and overmatch our land? And doth not this suffice you, but you must adventure yourselves and address us in such unseemly speech? Do you think to escape out of our hands and return to your country?" Then he shouted to his 100 horsemen, "Up, and at these hounds, for they even you in number." So saying, he bared his sabre and bore down on them, he and his. But the Franks met them with hearts firmer than rocks, and white dashed against white, and night dashed upon night, and hot waxed the fight, and sore was the affright, and nor parley nor cries of quarter helped their plight. And they stinted not to charge and to smite, right hand meeting right, nor to hack and hew with blades bright white, till day turned to night, and gloom oppressed the sight. Then they drew apart, and Sharrkan mustered his men, and found none wounded, save 4 only, who showed hurts, but not death hurts. Said he to them, "By Allah, my life long have I waded in the clashing sea of fight, and I have met many a gallant sprite, but none so unfrightened of the sword that smites, and the shock of men that affrights, like these valiant knights. Know, O King," said they, "that there is among them a Frankish cavalier, who is their leader, and indeed he is a man of valor, and fatal is his spear thrust. But by Allah, he spares us, great and small, for whoso falls into his hands, he lets him go, and forbears to slay him. By Allah, had he willed, he had killed us all." Sharrkan was astounded when he heard what the knight had done, and such high report of him. So he said, "When the morn shall morrow, we will draw out and defy them, for we are 100 to their 100, and we will seek aid against them from the Lord of the heavens." So they rested that night in such intent, whilst the Franks gathered around their captain, and said, "Verily this day we did not win our will of these." And he replied, "At early dawn, when the morrow shall morn, we will draw out and challenge them, one after one." They also rested in that mind, and both camps kept guard until Almighty Allah sent the light of day dawn. Thereupon King Sharrkan and his 100 riders took horse and rode forth to the plain, where they found the Franks ranged in line of battle. And Sharrkan said to his followers, "Our foes have determined like ourselves to do their devour, so up and at them and lay on load." Then came forth an herald of the Franks, and cried out, saying, "Let there be no general engagement betwixt us this day, save by the duello, a champion of yours against a champion of ours." Whereupon one of Sharrkan's riders dashed out from the ranks, and craved between the two lines, crying, "Ho, who is for smiting? Let no dastard engage me this day, nor netherling." Hardly had he made an end of his vaunt, when there sallied forth to him a Frankish cavalier, armed cap à pie, and clad in a surcoat of gold stuff, riding on a grey white steed, and he had no hair on his cheeks. He urged his charger on to the midst of the battle plain, and the two fell to derring do of cut and thrust. But it was not long before the Frank foined the Moslem with a lance point, and toppling him from his steed, took him prisoner, and led him off crestfallen. His folk rejoiced in their comrade, and forbidding him to go out again to the field, sent forth another, to whom sallied out another Moslem, brother to the captive, and offered him battle. The two fell to, either against other, and fought for a little while, till the Frank bore down upon the Moslem, and falsing him with a feint, tumbled him by a thrust of the lance heel from his destrier, and took him prisoner. After this fashion the Moslems ceased not dashing forwards, one after one, and the Franks to unhorse them and take them captive, till day departed, and the night with darkness upstarted. Now they had captured of the Moslems 20 cavaliers, and when Sharrkan saw this, it was grievous to him, and he mustered his men and said to them, "What is this thing that hath befallen us? To-morrow I myself will go forth to the field, and offer singular combat to their chief, and learn what is the cause of his entering our land.